You're listening to Thunderquack Podcast Network.
We did. And that's the thing is that, like, we saw him before any of this persona started.
Yeah,
and I think that that's really interesting because who he is now is very different from the Donald Glover that...
Well, he was still Childish Gambino.
He was still Childish Gambino. But even Childish Gambino was very different. There's some similar thematic stuff, but even the persona of Childish Gambino was a different persona back then than it is now.
Yeah.
Because it changed around, I think, his second actual album, his second, like, studio album. Because what we saw, I wish I could remember what year that was, but, man, was I at Infomine yet?
I don't think so. It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. What we saw was his when it was just his mixtapes,
right?
And nobody knew, and like you remember, like your sister came,
and
she had no idea that there would be rap, was I think kind of put off by it.
She was because he's off-putting if you don't know his songs, right?
Yeah, because and the thing like when I say that there's some thematic stuff that's similar, a lot of This Is America is an indictment of modern rap, and a lot of what he was doing early on in the mixtapes was. They were like send-ups, but they were also indictments as well. Like he uses a lot of like really vulgar language and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I want to say it was probably around 2011 or.
It was a long because I'm trying to go back through my profile pictures. It was back when I had like short hair. I think I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny because it was like in the height of Community.
Yeah.
Like, it was as that was kind of at the biggest that it got before I think it had been canceled.
Yeah, the first or whenever it was like...
or not canceled, like before Dan Harmon left, I think. Maybe it was between seasons 3 and 4. So maybe it was like 2011 or 2012.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was in season... I'm pretty sure it was between season 3 and 4.
Because it was long enough into Community that he'd been around for a while.
Yeah, and that everybody kind of knew who he was because it was basically a sold out performance.
Yeah, it was.
But it was in the Commodore, right?
Yeah.
Commodore? Yeah. And which is I wouldn't call it a small venue, but it's definitely not like like it's an intimate venue.
Yeah.
For sure. He came out, he opened with his stand up.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody was having a great time. Yeah. And then he switched over to his rap, and people were like, you could feel the temperature in the room change because people were like, what is this? Because there were a lot of people who bought tickets.
Because he was Donald Glover. Yeah.
And I like to think that I was one of the people in the room who actually understood what I was getting into. Because, like, I was a huge fan of him, like, the instant Community started. And I was there on day one for Community, right? Like, I think I was going to say before, like, there's not a lot of things in your life where you can, like, legitimately say the hipster phrase of, like, I liked it before it was cool. Childish Gambino now, Donald Glover is, like, depending on how the rest of this year plays out, I could see him being, like, on the cover of Time. Like, Person of the Year, right? Because he's Lando Calrissian. He's just like dropped probably the most influential song of the year, right? And like the music video has a message, and like there's
so cool.
There's so much going on there, and and Atlanta is incredible.
Yeah, it's doing awesome things.
Such an incredible show, and I don't even know like if he has other things later this year, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe he's got like another movie coming out or something like that. Like that's all. That's basically all this week. This Is America. He hosted Saturday Night Live on Saturday. Obviously, This Is America dropped on Saturday. Yeah. Just before the East Coast, like the live airing, and then the solo premiere was Thursday, and the season finale for season 3 of Atlanta was Thursday.
Oh wow!
So it's like
at the same time.
Yeah, huge week for him. So he's like all over the top.
Isn't The Lion King coming out soon too, though?
Lion King comes out soon. That's right. Yeah. And is that? I think that's next year.
I think so. Yeah, it's a while from now. So he is the second Donald after Donald Trump. Hopefully,
when you Google search Donald, that is one of the things that I'm really hope. Yeah, it's 2019 for Lion King. Yeah, because he's Simba in Lion King, which it's like, what?
It's gonna be so cool.
And the Met Gala was Sunday. Was that?
I think
was that
so.
Friday? I can't remember what day that was. It must have been.
It's sometime last weekend.
Yeah, and he was there along with so many other of these great African American and African actors and musicians and everything. Like there was such a cool presence. I feel like. Because he's also like kind of tangentially related to Black Panther, right? Because he knows so many of the cast members, and like they kind of run in the same circles. And as I was saying when we were watching the music video, the composer of the score for Black Panther is Donald Glover's music producer, who he's worked with him on a bunch of different projects, and I think he actually scores some of Atlanta as well. Like, so
the connections
like
there, yeah.
This everything that's happened with Donald Trump, everything that's happened with America in the last 2 years, 2.5, 3 years, like really since the beginning of the last cycle, right? With the campaign and everything, this weird shift where it turns out that, as a matter of fact, the world is riddled with horrible racist people and Nazis, like real Nazis. And I'm not trying to say that it's the majority of people, but I think that Nazis exist is like on the coasts, we thought that, because we are the media, right? Whether it's New York or Toronto or California or Vancouver, it's like we thought like we're in these echo chambers of like, because we're creating media that everything's fine. Yeah. Racism exists, but it's a problem that's being dealt with, right? And then all of these people just come out of the woodwork, right? And it's like when the pendulum swings like that, it always kind of like swings back the other way, and it feels like this year with Black Panther and now with Donald Glover, like that this might be
it's the idea of like
it's the equal and opposite reaction, right? This is like it's physics. And I posted on Twitter on I think like Sunday or Monday. I think it was Monday. After I'd watched the music video for like the 5th or 6th time, I was like, everything in the world sucks right now. Like there's terrible stuff happening all over the place. Yeah. But if there's one good thing to come out of an authoritarian dystopia, it's that the art is incredible, right? Like that's the thing. And Donald Glover is like at the forefront of that. I think it's been crazy to watch, and like we were talking about, we were there in like the infancy of what he's doing now. So like he's coming back in September to Vancouver for a big concert at Rogers Arena.
No
right?
way.
At Rogers Arena, which is like the biggest venue in Vancouver. I guess it's not the biggest, but it's like the it's the
big
nicest,
touring
right?
arena, right?
Yeah.
It's a big deal to fill that arena.
And I was looking at tickets, and it's like tickets are like $85. The cheapest tickets are $85, and I was like, you know what? I don't need to go because I saw him at the Commodore and like I didn't want to get in like the pit with all the people or whatever. But like we could have gotten close enough to like spit on him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like like
it was good. It was like a good entertaining like
it was a great night. It was a very big deal.
I feel like it was for my birthday. I think I was there celebrating something because I like
it
wore
was
a party
definitely
dress.
around your
and it's
birthday.
why my sister came down because
Yeah.
I made her go to a concert for this guy that she'd never heard of.
It was 2011 because Crystal was blonde.
Yeah, she was.
Crystal was blonde. Yeah, so it was 2011.
And that would have been the year I was graduating as well from university, like later in the summer or whatever.
So 7 years ago.
Holy, yeah.
Almost 7 years ago exactly,
Yeah,
basically.
crazy.
Yeah, and like it's I don't know, it's a really cool feeling because I feel like because I've been a fan of his since the first season of Community, that like as he succeeds, like I feel
like you succeed.
I feel like I'm part of it, right?
Yeah.
Because I was there at the beginning when and going like this guy is the best.
Yeah.
Like there are so many awesome. Go back and watch season 1 of Community.
Oh, it is. I just love watching like the bloopers of
it's
even. It's
some of the best
Community.
TV
So
ever.
great.
Like it is like so many great people firing on all
Alison
cylinders.
Brie has also done awesome stuff.
I mean,
since
Glow is
Community.
awesome.
Like,
Glow season 2 starts in June, I think.
Yeah.
Even
not the Brita actor, right?
Yeah, she has a Netflix show as well.
Yeah.
I
forget her name.
Gillian Jacobs.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, like all of them. Like, as the show ended, everybody kind of dispersed. I mean, the only person who's not really working is Chevy Chase, right? But,
we're okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just, it's so cool. It's such a cool feeling.
Very cool.
And it's cool that he went from Troy and Abed to being, like, the...
Oh, I forgot. Joel McHale. I don't like Joel McHale.
Oh, I love Joel McHale.
He's alright.
He's like the figurehead right now, I think, of a movement, right?
Donald Glover?
Yeah, Donald Glover.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that it's a flashpoint, right? Like there are all of these things that are moments.
Yeah,
or something happens. Like Ferguson was a flashpoint, and we've kind of been building towards something. I feel like, and his music video, the music video for This Is America, I feel like is the first time that somebody is talking about this, and it's not a protest. It's not an open letter or it's not a political statement.
Art.
It's a piece of art, but this piece of art is so powerful, and I think so many people are connecting with it that it's actually starting to break through.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like there's all of these other things that were kind of like pushing the door open, but I feel like this is the foot that gets in so that the door can't be closed again. I don't know. I hope, I think that's the part of me that's like hopeful that we're turning a corner, and that we're moving towards something progressive and not regressive, because that's kind of the word that a lot of people have been using in the last year. Is that like these politics are really regressive and stuff. So I don't know. It just like all week, and obviously like I am hyped and amped up beyond measure for Solo. Like, I can't wait for this movie, and Donald Glover's a big part of it, but just like the fact that it's written by Lawrence and John Kasdan, and Ron Howard came in and saved it, thankfully, and like all of these different... Woody Harrelson is in the
so
clips
great.
that I've seen, he is incredible in this movie, and he's another one of those people that's like...
He just picks stuff that is
it's really funny, because this guy that I work with, who's a few years younger than me, I was showing him a clip or a trailer or something like that for Solo, and he goes, "Oh, the guy from Hunger Games is in it?" And I'm like, "The guy from Hunger Games? No, Woody from Cheers." like dumb Woody from Cheers. And then Larry Flint from The People versus Larry Flint and Natural Born Killers. And like Woody Harrelson, like he's so many different things, but like my first impression of that actor is Woody from Cheers.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, even Cheers is a little bit older than us, but we still know him as Woody from Cheers.
I know it from like syndication.
Yeah,
I mean, like it didn't end until we were around for the end of Cheers. I remember when the last episode of Cheers.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, because my parents really liked Cheers, and I really liked Cheers.
My parents really liked Frasier, and that is a show that I discovered as an adult is quite good. As a child, it makes no sense.
I've never been able to break into that.
No, if you rewatch Frasier as an adult, it is so funny. If you like dry humor, it's just like great. But anyways.
Yeah, no, but like it's so crazy to me that he's kind of found this next stage of his career, because it was like he was Woody, right? And he was Woody, so he was, he's the dumb guy sort of thing, and sort of like typecast, kind of like a Dumb and Dumber character. Yeah, right?
That's the thing why I had a hard time with him in Hunger Games, because he plays such a grounded character.
After Cheers ended, he started doing, and maybe even while Cheers was still on, but he did like Natural Born Killers, and they did The People versus Larry Flint, and he kind of did like these edgy things, right? And then he's obviously in True Detective, and he's phenomenal in True Detective. But then like he's also done like the Hunger Games movies, and he's moved in True Detective, Hunger Games, and now in Solo, he's this character with like real world streetwise nuggets of wisdom to drop, right? And it's just so funny that he's come from Woody to that. This movie, it's just got so many of these elements to it, like all these different things coming together. I don't know. I think it's going to be everything that I want it to be. And a year ago, I didn't want a Solo movie. Like I was like young Han Solo movie. They tried Young Indiana Jones. It didn't work. If you don't have Harrison Ford, what's the point?
Right. Yeah.
And people are like, the first 30 minutes with Alden Ehrenreich is a little bit like your brain has to like cognitively readjust to him being Han Solo. But once you can get through that, he's Han Solo. Oh, and nice. So like that to me is all I need to hear.
Yeah, it's just
deal with any of like the last little bits. But man.
Yeah, the internet's not being very nice to him as Han Solo. I feel like people just don't want to do Han Solo.
And there were the rumors of him needing an acting coach on set, and that his performance was more Jim Carrey than it was Harrison Ford, and there was all this stuff. But I think like the other thing is that one of the rumors when Lord and Miller were taken off of the movie was that Alden Ehrenreich was the one who called Kathleen Kennedy. Oh. Like, he was the whistleblower going, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't know what they want from me. I am not one of these... I'm not this kind of actor. I thought I was hired to play Han Solo.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And, like, because I think that he's a very, like, process actor. And they were doing an improv movie, and the other part of it was that Lawrence Kasdan is kind of notorious for like I wrote the words, like that's the words, right. And there's a certain amount of riffing. Like there's a really famous thing in Empire Strikes Back, where the line "I love you, I know." Yeah, that wasn't written on the page. In the script, it was "I love you," and then Han like had like a speech, right? There was like this speech before he goes down into the carbonite. And then he forgot it, right? No, it was like they did it, and they did it, and they did it, and it just wasn't working. Okay. And they broke for a while, and Irvin Kershner and Harrison Ford went away, and they were like, I don't know, like this isn't working. It's not working. This isn't Han Solo. Yeah. He would never profess his love like this. Like it was like a very romantic, it was the climax of that romance. Right. And this great moment before Han Solo goes down to the carbonite, right? That's how it was written. Yeah. And they went away and then as I remember, like I don't know, it's all in. There's a Making of Star Wars book or Making of Empire Strikes Back, written by J.W. Rinsler that like kind of chronicles this whole thing. And as I remember it, like they basically they were beating their heads against the wall, and then Harrison Ford was like, you know what? Stop. let's do it. Like, let's get back on set. And I'm just going to say the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
And I think it was just him going like, I'm just going to get deep into character.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to let this moment happen.
Yeah.
As it happens. And they basically like went back. She says, I love you. And he just goes, I know. And that was it. And they were like, that's it. That's exactly what Han Solo would say. So as much as like Lawrence Kasdan wrote that movie, and I'm sure that he was like, oh, this is right. Mm-hmm. That like there's room for it. There's room for that. So Lawrence Kasdan's not like a dictator about that sort of thing.
But people they write the script and
you write the words on the page, and what was happening was they were improvising so much that it's Star Wars. If you don't say these 5 things,
they don't make sense in the next
in the next scene, the thing that happens as a result of one of those things, if you miss that, then that's not going to make sense.
Yeah.
It's like then that stuff has to be you have to set those dominoes up to knock them down, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of dialogue that Han Solo has to say. Go back and watch those movies. There's a lot of like, if we don't chart the course right, we'll bounce through a supernova, blah, 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 right? And I can't even, I've seen those movies a million times and I can't recite those lines.
Yeah.
Because they're so hard.
Yeah.
And there's stuff like that in this movie. You can see it. Like there's a clip where Han says that, we have to divert all power to the rear deflector shields. Yeah. And it's like, there's moments like that. So you can't riff as much as they wanted to. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why they were like, creative differences, right?
Yeah, it's like because
because I read an article that they saw a cut of the movie back in December, and when they saw that cut, they went like they saw it for legal reasons.
Oh right, because
do we get director credits on this movie? Because obviously Lucasfilm was like, no, you're not getting director credits. So they were like, well, we need to see the movie. Yeah. And they came to the conclusion, along with their lawyers, I guess, Lord Miller, that the creative differences were big enough that they just took executive producer credits.
Oh, okay.
Which is very interesting. Like that whole. I think when eventually we get a making of Solo book 10, 20 years from now, it's going to be very interesting to learn about exactly what happened on that set. Because I don't think that it's as big of a deal as everybody wants it to be. Yeah, I think it's literally just like they hired the wrong directors to make a Star Wars movie. Yeah. One of the things...
Simple,
one of the quotes was that it was more Guardians of the Galaxy than the vibe of the original Star Wars, and Ron Howard came in and kind of corrected that back in the right direction. And to me it's like that. I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2 and every moment.
But it was earned. It took a decade to get there, right? And then you did it.
Well, and every moment of them in Infinity War and everything, like that's all fine. Guardians of the Galaxy is great. I don't want Star Wars to be Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, it's right. As much as each of these standalone movies can kind of have its own vibe.
Do something that doesn't have those core characters in it, right? Like do a different movie. But that's the brilliant thing about this is that stuff like that happens all the time. But the problem is films usually don't have enough money to course correct. So you wind up with films that don't end up doing well because they can't
like
course
Suicide
correct,
Squad,
right?
let's say.
But they had money to course correct,
but they didn't bother.
They did weird things with that one. It's because
the course correcting is probably what wrecked that.
But the problem is there's things with people. If people up at the top don't understand what's happening, nothing can save it. Yeah. But when people at the top understand what's happening, and people in the middle or that were hired to do a job are doing it in a way that's going to screw it up somehow, they either have to lean into that or they have to fix it or they have to go away. And so the fact that they sort of came in and they were like, nope, this is not the right one. We're going to completely do this over. We're going to deal with the consequences of this, and we're going to pay for the changes. Because that's the thing, is that usually you can't pay for the changes of something. It's a huge cost to halt production and it's just astronomical.
Well, I mean, the fact that Ron Howard said this last night on the live stream for the red carpet, they were talking to him what was the biggest challenge with this movie, with a movie like Solo, right? Just one of those softball questions, and he was like, well, we're standing here right now, and this movie is going to hit its release date, and we worked really, really hard to make sure that happened. And he was like, and then he went into like a bit of a soundbite of like, because this is a summer movie, it's a good summer movie.
Yeah.
I'm glad we hit the release date but you could tell that he started on a thought and then went, I can't talk about this, and pivoted into the soundbite.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting because it is that thing of like they had the money to come in, and Ron Howard is a talented enough director, and Kathleen Kennedy has enough clout and enough pull to say, Ron, I need you to come in and fix my movie.
Yeah.
Because he probably had something in the production pipeline that he went, you got to push that out a year.
Yeah.
And we might find out that whatever his next movie is, his lead is a different person than it was originally. It's one of those stories that we'll find out because they had to push it a year because he had to save Solo, right? So Hollywood can be really interesting in that way. It's like
interesting. It's fascinating.
There's it's like the alternate timelines, right? It's like what could have happened.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Nicolas Cage was going to be Superman?
Yeah. And they got really, really far down that production pipeline before somebody pulled the plug on it. Yeah. And honestly, when I first learned that, I was like, because Kevin Smith would talk about it on his Evening with Kevin Smith things. And because he wrote the draft of a draft of what that movie would have been. And I at first you're like, oh God, Nicolas Cage is Superman. And then I think it was about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, a documentary came out called The Death of Superman Lives. I haven't seen it yet because there's no way to get it in Canada, I don't think. I don't think it has distribution here. Except for like buying it from the States and buying a Blu-ray or whatever. But the Blu-rays are super expensive because it's a very indie production, so they're $50 Blu-rays. Oh, American. Yeah. So I've never watched it, but like a lot of stuff came out of that, like all the news sites kind of picked it up and showed stuff. And then when you see Nicolas Cage and what Tim Burton was gonna do, you go like, I really wish that I actually could have seen that movie. I don't know that I would have loved it, but it would have been so different from anything else Superman that I feel like it might have actually like altered the course of that character in pop culture.
Oh, for sure.
To the point that like I don't think Smallville ever happens. Oh. Right? Like
crazy, yeah, totally.
Because if Superman Lives comes out and hits on something like Batman 89 did, then all of a sudden that becomes Superman for the 90s. Right? And then like what does that do to the history of that character? We don't get Smallville. If we don't get Smallville, do we get Arrow?
No, we don't get Arrow. It wouldn't open the
it's really, really interesting. It's like there is an alternate timeline where Superman Lives happened, and it completely changed everything. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Wow. How do we get from Donald Glover, This Is America,
to Superman? Because we get to always either to Star Wars or Superman. It's
true.
Just how it works.
It's true. This might be one of our best episodes yet because it was Star Wars to Superman. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know. AJ, I really hope Superman, right? Yeah. I really hope that we are turning a corner culturally, and that because the next cycle is about to begin. Right? And they reboot Superman? No. Yeah. The next election cycle is about to begin. Oh, gotcha. It'll start in like October, November, right? Because we'll be 2 years out from the next election. That's crazy. So the campaigning will start. I really hope... My biggest hope, because I was saying this to somebody at work today, I'm getting really sick of all of the Trump news. I'm getting really sick of all that. Obviously, I'm very tired of hearing about Michael Cohen. He's giving us a really bad name. Look it up sometime. Just crack open a phone book if they still exist. I think they do. And look for Cohen, Michael in your area. I guarantee you there's at least 5. I don't care where you're from. There's at least 5. It's a very common name. And most of us are half decent people. And this guy is really making life hard for everybody with this name. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we're close to the end of this, and I keep going like, man, what's going to be the thing that finally topples this house of cards, right? And it seems like nothing will. Like, it just seems like it doesn't matter. He had sex with a porn star, and then he paid that porn star to keep quiet. And then it turns out that was actually basically like election fraud to do it. Like, it has
to be something illegal. My mom just pointed this out. I didn't know that Bill Clinton got impeached.
Yeah.
I didn't quite realize that because he got to finish his, like, term or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing that he got impeached for is not sleeping with Monica Lewinsky.
No.
It's lying about it under oath.
Yeah.
And so, but that's the thing, is that the problem is that Donald Trump has never lied under oath. You can lie as much as you want in your everyday life and on Twitter, but until you do it in a way that is like a legal perjury.
Yeah.
Right?
What I was saying, we were kind of talking about this, and I said, like, my only hope is that Mueller is holding on to the silver bullet, and like, he's got it, it's in the chamber, and he's just waiting until it can dismantle Trump's hopes of re-election.
Oh,
because if he doesn't use it at the right time,
then people will forget about it.
Yeah, it's like, it's a thing that, like, if he can't take down Trump, like, basically if you can't put him behind bars, which is very hard to arrest and imprison the president of the United States, right?
Sets a bad precedent for democracy.
It does set a very bad precedent for democracy. It'll do very bad things for the stock market. Yeah. There are global repercussions to those. I don't know if people
watch Scandal, but there's this whole big thing about how the republic is more important than any one person, and
and
blah, blah, blah.
And I think that he's basically waiting for the moment that it'll be like, this just dismantles his campaign. Right?
Yeah.
He will never be president of the United States for a second term because of X. Right? Like, I don't know. I hold out hope for that. And that's why this circus just continues to happen, and things just keep happening. And all he's doing, he's just building a case and building a case and building a case. And when the time is right, he's just going to be like, you're done. Right?
Yeah. I don't know.
And the other thing is holding on to it for long enough that Pence doesn't have enough time to do anything effective.
Oh, to be like, right? Run as president.
Yeah, because that's the other thing, is like, Pence is worse than Trump.
But I wish that there was something. I wish that I believed that, and the more that I'm like trying to get in the head of like this, like the whole idea of like, you know, all those SNL clips that came out after Trump was elected, where it's like all these white people sitting around being like, I don't understand how Hillary lost.
Yeah.
Right. I think that some of that is still happening, where it's all these white people sitting in rooms being like, something's changing, and nothing actually will, and he will, because you can't not have Donald Trump run as a second term unless the Republicans put somebody else up. Yeah. And the Republicans are going to stand behind Donald Trump, because I don't think he's screwed up enough for them to throw him under a bus. Like, they can't, like, it's this thing is like, there is no election unless the Republicans run somebody, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, I don't know. I think he's gonna, I don't know. Because he's not screwing up enough for it to like be undermining America.
Well, it's not even, he's not screwing up he's not screwing the right people for it to be a problem for the Republican Party.
That's
those people are actually the ones who are benefiting. I mean, like the tax cuts and everything, the stuff that is getting pushed through, it is benefiting the right people that are going to, it's in their best interest to continue along this course. Yeah. And you're right. Like, that is the thing that's going to be really tough. But I think it just has to be something so damning that even the Republican Party can't stand behind it. Yeah. Right?
I don't know. It's just like, I wish the world were a better place, and I really do hope Donald Glover is onto something in terms of like shifting. Here's my takeaway from that This Is America video. Yeah. Is that it's not a video of hope.
Yeah.
It's a video of reflection. Yeah. And those things are sort of different and set a precedent for, I think that over the next 5 years, America and the rest of the world, and Canada needs to learn from this as well, will start to be more reflective on their ingrained racism and structural inequality and institutional inequality and all this stuff. But I don't think it'll change yet. Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, the first step is sort of opening everybody's eyes to this until everybody actually does go, yes, this is a thing that's happening. Because then, only then, can you go, and this is how we change it. Yeah. Because if you start to just go, this is a problem, here's how we change it, people are like, but I don't see a problem. And that keeps happening, and I'm guilty of that too. Not with, like, big things, but, you know, my friend will say something, I'll be like, that's not true. My Netflix works fine. And then she's like, no, Amanda. I mean, when you go on and you don't have network connectivity, you can't switch between profiles. I was like, but that's not a problem for me. I always get my own profile. Mama, you're lying. And it's like, it's not true. It's just that it's never happened for me. Yeah. So therefore, I believe Netflix works fine. Like little things like that, right? From your point of view, unless you start to show people what it's actually like and it sinks in and people start to see it, nothing will change.
I think that George Lucas, actually I guess Lawrence Kasdan would have written this. He wrote Return of the Jedi. So one of the most important lines I think in just fiction in general is Obi-Wan Kenobi saying, like, many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our own point of view. Like, it's just, it is so important, I think, for everybody to just take that quote and memorize it and, like, just internalize it and digest it, because that's really, at the end of the day, I think all of these issues that we're having right now in this moment, like this particular flashpoint in history and the thing that we're going to look back on, is that people are inherently selfish, and we need to, as a society, work harder on stepping outside of our own perspectives and seeing other people's perspectives. And that is, like, it's a daily practice, really. Like, understanding how another person thinks and feels, that empathy is the most important skill I think that a person can have, right? And I mean, like, you can choose what to do with that empathy, but I think that it's important to have that empathy. Because sometimes you might be able to get into the thoughts and feelings of another person's motivations, and you might then reflect on that and go, this is a really good reason to not allow this person to succeed, right? Like, if you have that skill, it'll give you the discernment to know, like, when to be compassionate and when to stick to your guns, right? And I think that right now, a lot of people make that choice based on one of two things. They make it based on a very intellectual, logical compass, or a very emotional, guttural, morality-based compass. And a lot of those people are getting that morality-based compass from a very filtered, distorted, and, from my perspective, incorrect interpretation of the Bible, right? Like, that's and like those two, honestly, like, that's a very specific indictment of a very specific subset of culture. But what I said, like, the former, that logical thing, like, that is the far left, I sort of like the militant liberal, we're going to talk about this topic at this extremely high level and never actually consider the human impact. You know, like, and I don't want to say, like, centrist is the way to be, because I think that centrist is apathy, right? Like, that's where that comes from. You don't want to be a true neutral. You want to be lawful good. Like, if you look at it on the D&D chart, being lawful good is
so boring.
It's boring, but I mean, like, ultimately, I don't know. It feels like it's
probably
true good. Sorry?
Isn't there true good?
No,
lawful
there's
good?
It's lawful, chaotic, good, evil, neutral.
Yeah. And then neutral.
In the center.
Okay, yeah.
So, no, you do, like, and neutral good is good to a certain degree, but, I mean, like, it depends on what your laws are. That's kind of the problem.
That's the thing, is it depends on what your laws are. And I guess lawful is, like...
But that logical extremism of, like, that extreme scientific rationality to every argument, well... You know, like, using that word, pick any hot button word, using that word is a bad thing. So even if you say it, like, I won't say any of the words that I'm talking about right now, because if I do, there are people that even in a rational discussion like we're having right now will just, like, roast you for, like, you're done, right? Like, and it's that throwing the baby out with the bathwater thing. It's like that's happening on both sides right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, extremes in any sort of thing.
People need to moderate that a little bit. Yeah. Don't come to the center. Stick to your guns, right? Be Captain America. Like, say no, you move, right? But don't forget that the person across the aisle is a human being as well. Yeah. And that goes for both sides, right? Like, it's... I don't know. Yeah.
I like the idea of, like, neutral good, because then you're allowed... Because the idea that you can break laws if they are not, like, good laws.
Yeah,
like,
I
guess
neutral good is probably one of the best places to be. Again, we're coming back to Star Wars. So that's... Han Solo is neutral good, ultimately. But he wishes he was chaotic good.
I was going to say, right?
Yeah. But he's not. He is ultimately neutral good. And whenever he tries to be chaotic good, he's in conflict with himself. And when he tries to be lawful good, he's in conflict with himself. The book Last Shot, I think I talked about it before. It's so good because that's what it's about. It's about, you know, Solo is about him trying to be chaotic good and struggling with that. And then throughout the Star Wars trilogy, he's neutral good. He's kind of like, well, I'm not really the rebellion, but I also don't like screw the Empire. Yeah. Right. But then by the end of it, by Return of the Jedi, he's like, yeah, I'm lawful good. And then he goes off and has a kid and he's like, oh man, being lawful good sucks. Yeah. And he goes off with Lando on an adventure and is kind of like, well, I think I kind of like this, but I also like my family, but also, and then Ben turns evil and he goes, yeah, okay, I'm just going to go be neutral good out in the galaxy. I can't hack it as a good guy. I think it's really interesting. That character is the reason why everybody loves Han Solo more than they like Luke Skywalker is because Luke Skywalker is an altruistic hero, or at least that's how he's perceived. More on that in another episode. But Han...
Altruistic? That's how people perceive him?
Yeah, he's goody-goody. Like, he is...
he's a selfish little whiny...
That's the truth of it. That's the truth of it. Like I said, whole other episode. We can go for another hour. We'll get to it eventually, I'm sure. Let's put a pin in it. But Han is the everyman, and I think that the majority of us do actually want to live in that area, right? Yeah. I don't know. There's that. He's also just got that roguish charm.
Swagger.
Yeah. Cool.